let's start. I think there are two, I think, things that we should clear up front are things we should not be, I think, discussing. One is the definition of what is a freebie. I think nobody is going to win this debate because basically one man's freebie is another man's essential. Let's say you give a power subsidy to a farmer, it's lifeblood for him, but for an environmentalist, it's kind of, pretty alarming to give this because it leads to declining water tables. Second, as you said, everybody is sinning in this. Every party, both the center and the states are sinning. So I think there's, so nobody has any moral high ground on this, as you quite rightly said, right? The third thing that doesn't get said in this, the discussion of freebies often has this kind of elite middle class bias where you focus on the, freebies given to the poor. And in fact, our system completely overlooks, the freebies that the middle class gets, in spades. In 2015-16, Mr. Arun Jaitley, when he was finance minister, he asked me to catalog and quantify what the freebies that the middle class was receiving in India. And in the economic survey of 2016, we actually cataloged this. There are all kinds of things that we give for the middle class. I mean, to begin with, so many middle class taxpayers don't pay any taxes, for example. The other thing is that, these public sector enterprises are making huge losses, which keep getting, financed and funded. Those are, big freebies. When corporates get write-offs, for example, they may be for a reason, but they're also freebies. And we found that these, freebies could be 1 to 2 lakh crores. So it's a kind of mug's game to decide, nobody from the outside can decide what's a freebie or what's not a freebie.
No, that's interesting.
That is why it is essential that all these things be debated, discussed, and be part of the democratic political process, rather than, the Supreme Court or some outside expert saying, this must be done, this is a freebie. I mean, that's just a fool's errand. It has to be part of the democratic political process. So then that leads to the question that you raised. Freebies in some ways are a symptom of a problem, not the problem itself. And what is that underlying problem? As you quite rightly said, remember, one has to be really fair here, that both the center and the states, you say, have retreated. That's actually not quite right, Vasu. It's actually, health and education, no government, center or state has ever really provided effective public health and education over our 75 years. Right. I think the one exception, to be fair, is the Aam Aadmi Party, which actually said, judge us on our record on providing health and education. But apart from that, the history of India is a sad story of health and education being completely neglected. So it's not a retreat from that. They've never really provided that. So as you rightly said, both central and remember, health and education are state subjects. So it's not just the central government that's made mistakes. It's also the state governments that haven't done this. So the question is, it's a symptom of a problem, and the underlying problem is that, the center maybe can't provide employment and growth. The states cannot provide health and education. So what do politicians do? They're not able or willing to provide these essential, what we call public goods, health, education, infrastructure, employment, which benefit a lot of people. Instead, they, promise to deliver the things that they can deliver, which is easy to deliver, whether it's toilets or cash or fertilizer subsidies, whatever. So it's a symptom of a problem, and the underlying problem being that, the Indian state has historically not been very good at providing these big essentials of, health, education, growth, employment. One exception, one public good that I think the Indian state has become pretty good at doing is to provide infrastructure. I think in the last 25 years, beginning with the Vajpayee government, roads, connectivity, ports, airports, all the things that are very important for people in themselves, but also for broader economic growth. I think that's, I think we've done a good job on.